Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy, and today I'm doing a mashup video of my August wrap-up and for my September TBR. Now, I did touch base on all of the books I read in the first half of the month. I think there were 9, so you can check that out up above. But if you did not know, I recently moved. My lease ended, and the people I was renting from decided to, instead of privately renting the house, went to a management company who severely jacked up the price, so I was kind of forced to move. And I am still looking for a place, but I'm currently crashing in an empty room at my brother's house. So hopefully I will get out of there soon. So I decided to kind of merge things together since I didn't read too many books in the second half of August. And then I'm also going to do kind of a loosey-goosey September TBR. So I figured I'd mash them together and get them done because it's been a while since I've posted a video, at least when I'm filming this. So we will start with my stats, and then we will talk about the 4 books I read in the second half of August, and then we'll kind of quickly go through what I have planned for my TBR. So let's just get into it. I read a total of 13 books in the month of August for 3,907 pages. I averaged about 1.15 days per book. The average page count is 300.54 pages. And then I read 3 books that were in the hundreds, 4 books in the 200s, 5 books in the 300s, and 1 book in the 600s. But let's be honest, that book was 698 pages, so it might as well have been 700. But it's fine. This is how I break down my page counts. But there is that. So on to slide number 2. 8 of the 13 books I read were for clubs, read-alongs, or read-a-thons. 4 of the books I picked up had diversity, and I ended up actually reading 5 new authors, which is crazy. I did not reread any books. And 5 of the books I previously owned in paperback, and then I did add 4 of these books to my wish list. And then obviously the 5 books I owned in paperback, I read in paperback, so the other 8 I read in ebook. 7 of these books were traditionally published, and I read 3 books that are from small presses or small publications, and then I also read 3 indie published books, so a lot of traditionally published books this month. And then the decades I read in were 2 in the 1990s, 1 published in the 2000s, 6 in the 2010s, and 4 in the 2020s. My average rating was 4.19 stars, and I read 4 5-star books, 3 4.5 books, 3 4-star books, and 3 3-star books. And then the final thing I kind of keep track of stats-wise is the genres that I read in. So I read 5 contemporary romances, 3 fantasy romances, 3 historical romances, and 2 paranormal romances. And then for my contemporaries, I do a breakdown of those. So I read 1 new adult, 2 rom-coms, 1 sports, and then 1 just generic contemporary romance. And that is what I have for my stats. So like I mentioned, most of my reading was in the beginning of the month. Not too much happened in the end, although I did read a big boy. So we will just kind of briefly touch through. I usually do a lot of my talking of my books and my wrap-ups, but since I'm doing a mashup, I'll kind of keep it brief. But the 10th book I read in the month was Her Unexpected Roommate by Jackie Lau. This is the 5th and final book in her Cider Bar Sisters series. This is Rose's book, and I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it. Rose is the Cider Bar sister I have been waiting for. She struggles a lot with depression, so definitely be warned. Trigger warnings for someone dealing with depression. Her mother also had depression, but it went untreated, and it was a situation where her mother didn't really believe, she knew something was wrong with her, but she didn't really believe in mental health, so to speak. And then her mother actually ended up committing suicide, and this is 7 years, I think, maybe longer before the beginning of the book, but she does mention it. And she is definitely struggling through depression, and it is a depression that is fairly untreatable. And so she has her little things that she does to try to keep herself from spiraling. We do see her go through a couple of spirals, but we don't sit with her too much in them, and those are kind of time jumps fast forwarded through, which is fine. But I love Jackie Lau. She is a favorite author of mine. I love the way that she handles any type of sensitive topic, whether it's racial or sexuality or mental health things, and this book was just so touching. I loved Rose. I loved Cal, and Cal also had struggled, and he has dyslexia for numbers, dyscalculia, I think is how you say it. And so he wasn't the perfect person paired with Rose, but he was perfect for Rose, and I really, really loved it. She is, someone who doesn't want to get pregnant, and I know some people look for that. She does like the idea of having a child, but she knows with the way that she manages her depression that going through pregnancy herself and going through having an infant to raise would be something that she just cannot handle. But there is a discussion of maybe if they feel like kids, maybe adopting someone who's of an older age. So I don't know. I just really loved all the things that Jackie Lau touched on in this. It definitely was heavier than some of her previous books, but I feel like the way that Jackie Lau writes, just the touch is light. And one thing I love about her characters and the way that she writes her books is everybody feels so real. They don't make silly decisions a lot of the times, and I love this. 5 stars. So good. And I'm sad that the Cider Bar Sisters series is over. Jackie Lau has announced that she plans on starting 2 new series next year at some point. And here's my thought. We meet some of Cal's friends. He goes out to dinner with them a couple of times, and they're all friends from his theater group from high school, and he was a backstage guy. So I feel like one of the series might be around that grouping of friends. And then Rose has a stuffed alpaca that she runs an Instagram for, and she has other stuffy friends on Insta. And we find out, I think in the epilogue or in the final chapter, that one of her penguin friends, her alpaca's name is Fred, and he has a penguin friend named, I think his name was Pip, and she, I think it's a she, is run by, I want to say some sort of doctor in Canada as well, but not, this is mostly set in Toronto, but I want to say she lives in Montreal, so I feel like maybe she might be the start or associated with this other second series. And if not, I'm okay with both of these series being created at some point. But I love Jackie Lau. I cannot wait to see what she does next. And I'm both sad and happy that the Cider Bar Sisters is over, because I'm so happy that we finally got Rose's book and she gets her HEA. And the epilogue kind of wrapped up all of the Cider Bar Sisters. And it was just, I teared up a little bit because it was just so well done. And I loved it. Then I picked up Lord of the Vampires by Gena Showalter. This is the first book in the multi-author Royal House of Shadow series. This is a Harlequin Nocturne series. I give this 4 stars. I picked this up because I was needing an amnesia book to finish the Rip Bodice Summer Bingo, and I originally had planned to pick up Elisa Kleypas and decided to go paranormal instead. And I really enjoyed this. This is an older book. It was published, I want to say, in the early 2000s, so it definitely had that kind of slightly campy early paranormal vibe to it, which I am okay with. That is my jam. And I'm glad to have finally read Gena Showalter. So in this, it is Nikolai and Jane. And Jane is a human, and she ends up being transferred into this other world where, like, vampires and ogres, and there's a mention of, like, wolves, which I think are, like, werewolves, being in this other, almost like a hidden dimension. And she takes the place of Princess Odette, who had captured or bought Nikolai from a slave market, and so he had been her slave, and he ended up killing her, and then her younger sister took ownership of him. But he is a prince, and when his family was attacked by the blood sorcerer, and so his father casted a spell, and it's him. He has 2 brothers and a younger sister as well, and they kind of got spread out. And the father casts a spell so that they always feel the vengeance to, you know, come back and seek vengeance, basically, and get their kingdom back and to take down the blood sorcerer. And then the mother also cast a spell, but I can't remember what the mother's spell was. But what ends up happening is one or both of these princesses steal his memories, because, I don't know, it kind of twisted a little bit differently, but they steal his memory. So he doesn't know who he is, but all he does is feel this vengeance that he needs to complete, but he doesn't know why. And he ends up somehow summoning Jane from the human realm, because he just knows that she is the one to help him escape and regain his memories and complete what other task he feels he has to do. I enjoyed this. It definitely went a lot of really quick. I only gave it 4 stars though, because there were times where it seemed kind of like wishy-washy almost, where, like, we kept, like, there were a few times where it felt like we took a bunch of steps forward and then quite a few steps back. A lot more back than I was hoping for or wanting, but overall, I definitely enjoyed it. Gena Showalter is one of my sister's favorite authors, so she read a lot of her when she was in middle school and high school. She's been on my TBR forever, and I'm glad to have finally picked up one of her books, and I definitely want to read more from her. Like I mentioned, this is a multi-author series. The other 2 books are by Jill Monroe, Jessica Anderson, and then the 4th book in the series is by Nalini Singh. So I definitely do want to read the rest of the series. I think the next book is the younger sister, and then that leaves the other 2 for the other brothers. But I'm definitely intrigued to read more. 4 stars. Then I picked up the Smart Women Read Romance Patreon exclusive review for August, and that was The Pirate Lord. This is the first book in Sabrina Jeffries' Lord trilogy, and I give this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. This was my first Sabrina Jeffries as well. She's another author that's been on my TBR forever. I definitely really enjoyed this. I kind of went in blind, but I knew it was a pirate historical romance, and it went a little bit differently than I was expecting, and it ended up kind of giving me like 7 brides for 7 brothers. So Gideon is our pirate, and he is basically trying to create a community, like, I guess pretty much a town for him and his crew, and he has it out for aristocracy, but he one of his crew members finds out about a ship that is transporting a bunch of women from England to the Australian colonies. They're all in trouble from everything from stealing a piece of bread to, you know, full-on prostitution. So they all have been sentenced to go to Australia. And so they end up taking over the ship and wanting to choose brides. But poor Sarah has joined this boat to basically write an expose as an Earl's sister on what really happens and the way that these women are treated, not only on the passing to get to Australia, but what happens once they're there. She is secretly the Earl's sister, though. And so she ends up going with them. Obviously, she falls in love with Gideon, and she definitely pushes back against him, just allowing his crew members to just take whoever they want. And she, like, enforces them to, like, court the women and it gives them options so they don't feel like they're forced to marry somebody. So it definitely, like I said, 7 brides for 7 brothers without them all, like, being weirdly related. But I just really, really enjoyed this, and it was definitely a lot of fun and a lot different than I was expecting. I did want a little bit more, like, hijinks, like on the sea hijinks, which is something that I always love about pirates, but it also was something completely unexpected. And I feel like for a 90s historical, well, I can see some people having some problematic issues with this book. Overall, I feel like it didn't really have too much that was really that problematic that could cause issues. So definitely, if you're looking for an older historical romance, definitely check this out. I want to read more from Sabrina Jeffries, and I want to read more from this series as well. Then, the final book I read in August was for the SJM Along, and it was Empire of Storms. This is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series. There's too much to talk about this book. 5 stars. I loved it. We get some steaminess, and not just from Rowan and Aelin. I loved it. This is the pick-me-up that I really needed, dealing with the stress of moving and all of the last-minute stuff that you have to deal with at the end of the month. And this was so good. I enjoyed myself immensely. There were a couple of points I jumped and listened to the audiobook at work just to kind of help me get through it quicker. But most of this I read in paperback, and I have been kind of a little bit slumpy since I've finished this. I did read one other book which I loved, which was the first book I read in September. But last night I was struggling on picking up a book, and I already have started rereading this book. I'm not very far through. I don't know if I'm going to continue rereading it, but yes, I might already be rereading this book, and it hasn't even been like a full 2 weeks since I finished it. So yeah, that's how much I love this. But I just want to reread it and pick up on anything that I might have missed, especially after the live show. But yeah, 5 stars. I loved it. So many plots, so many threads that were like starting to merge and get wrapped up, but then something else popped up, and it's just, this world is just getting more and more expansive, and more is happening, and I just don't know how in the heck we are going to get everything resolved in the next 2 books. But I'm definitely excited, and I'm very much leaning towards actually fully rereading everything because I'm a little bit slumpy right now. So not too much to say about it outside of this is in the running for my favorite from the series so far, with Heir of Fire, and it's close. I haven't quite decided where this is going in my ranking yet. Alexa, dismiss. But yeah, 5 stars, 5 amazing stars. Plus, I love the cover. I mean, first of all, it's like gray, which is my color, but gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And that is the 13 books that I read in August. Well, that's the 4 books I read in the second half of August. So like I mentioned, if you want to hear about the first 9 books, check out my mid-month wrap-up for sure. Now, usually I pull origami flowers for extra TBR prompts, and I have a backlist author, so an author I want to continue working through their backlist. I have a new to me author, and then I have a series to continue. Those are the 3 prompts I have in my origami jar, but I am going to try to stick to doing some Kindle Unlimited books and ebooks, more specifically Kindle Unlimited books. So things are going to slightly change this TBR outside of doing my origami prompts. But before that, let's touch base on book club books I have. So let me switch my notes. Okay, so for Rake Appreciation Society this month, it is going to be Surrender by Amanda Quick. I have read Amanda Quick before. I've read 3 or 4 of her standalone historicals with the crazy stepbacks. I'm excited to read this one. This is one I have not read before, and I'm going to go in as blind as I can because hers are just crazy, wacky fun. Then for the SJM Along, what we have to read this month is book number 3 in A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Wings in Ruin. This is another big boy. I feel like everyone just gets larger and larger and larger, and this one officially breaks 703. So this will be a big boy, but usually the live show isn't till the end of the month, so I have time to get through it. Unfortunately, the graphic audio for this book is not out yet, so I definitely will be doing a reread of this book when the graphic audio comes out, because I have immensely enjoyed the graphic audio and reading along to those for the first 2 times, so this will be the first time reading an ACOTAR book without that audiobook, and I definitely would rather listen to the graphic audio other than the normal audiobooks out there, so I'll probably just be reading this one physically. But if you have not checked out the graphic audios, they are amazing. And then for the Smart Women Read Romance exclusive Patreon review, it looks like what won on the poll is The Sight of You by Ashley Mack. This is available on Kindle Unlimited, and the theme this month was just anything contemporary, and I looked at the poll. It hasn't been announced officially what it was, but this one had the most percentage from what I saw, so I'm guessing it's going to be this book. It's usually the last Monday of the month, so it should be this one, but things could change. And that is it for book clubs, so not too much. And I don't know if there's going to be any readathons starting, but I do want to mention Shelby has officially switched over. I'll link her down below. Shelby Taggart Reads hosts quarterly or seasonal reading challenges. So September 1st started Fall in Love, and we have 3 new bingo boards. I love doing these. She's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone, and she is one of the big reasons behind contemporary becoming a favorite subgenre of mine once again. And I have picked up so many contemporary books and new contemporary authors over the past year and a half, thanks to Shelby, and her recs are always really good. So I'm excited to see what I end up picking up for Fall in Love. I'm hoping I can get 2 bingo boards done, but we will see. Usually in the end of fall, once things get I always stay inside and stay at home anyway, but once it gets into the cozy weather, I definitely read a lot more. Although I want to also start working on my Christmas presents that I make early to kind of stay ahead of the ball. So we'll see what happens. But I did want to mention that started. And this is the first bingo board, but there are 3. Okay, and then I will So up here is my Q3 anticipated new releases. September is really light because a lot of the authors that I really follow new release wise are indie authors or small publishers, and they don't announce release dates till closer to when they release. But there are a couple that I definitely want to mention. One of them I know is mentioned in that video, and that is Dr. Off Limits by Louise Bay. This comes out, or it came out today because I'm filming this on the 6th. So it came out on September 6th. And when I read the blurb for this, it gave me Grey's Anatomy vibes, like beginning of Grey's Anatomy's. And so I was definitely intrigued. I love Grey's Anatomy, especially the first 10 seasons. I am a few seasons behind, but it sounded really fun. And then the other one I want to mention, just because I have been screaming her name out everywhere, the Ugly Stepsister is supposed to be out September 13th. This is by Megan Van Dyke. This is the second book in her reimagined fairy tale series, and I cannot wait. I just recently read the first book in the series, Second Star to the Left, which was a Peter Pan retelling with a romance between Tinkerbell and Captain Hook. I loved it. It was so good. This is a Cinderella reimagined fairy tale, but in case you have not seen me rant about this book before, here is the premise. Cinderella, so the story we know as Cinderella. She was bullied, she falls in love with the prince, she ends up marrying the prince. That all happens. However, Cinderella is actually the bully and has been manipulating the situation the entire time, and now she is queen because both her husband and the king have died. So, but when she gets married to the prince, she sends, you know, with her manipulations, they send people after her two stepsisters and her stepmother, and basically sentence them to be slaves for the Blue Fairy. And the stepsister that I'm assuming is based off of Anastasia, I think she goes by Anne or Anna, she escapes, and she has been living as a male to hide her identity, and she has teamed up with either like the huntsman or a former guard from the palace or something like that, and it is their romance as they work to prove that Cinderella is the real bully and manipulative person behind everything. And like, I am just so sold. I have not found this unique take on a Cinderella retelling before, and I'm super duper excited about it, if you could not tell. Plus, this cover is just as gorgeous as the other one, and I cannot wait to read this. And that is the two I'm just gonna touch base on because I will just go on. So for my TBR prompts, I did kind of want to stick to a backlist author, a new author, and continue a series. So what I decided to do is pull out my Kindle and see what books I have already checked out on Kindle Unlimited that are on it. So we're just gonna do it live here. And I will go to my library. Okay, so so it shows I have 29 books from Kindle Unlimited, but you can only check out 20 at a time. But I have my max of 5 books that are also available through Prime Reading, which is a separate service from Kindle Unlimited. Plus, I have some Kindle Unlimited books that were available as free or discounted prices that I've just purchased, but they still are listed as being available through Kindle Unlimited. So that's where the extra 4 came from. So I narrowed it down to look at everything Kindle Unlimited, and I'm going to quickly scroll through and see what is popping out at me that we can pick up, and I'm going to just try to pick some. Okay, so for new author, I've been meaning to pick her up forever. I'm going to pick up Finding You by Lena Hendricks. This is the first book in her Chickaloo Falls. I have been wanting to read her forever. So we are going to go with that one, and I'm going to write it down. Lena Hendricks. And I feel like a book in this series just recently came out as well. Okay, so then I need a backlist author and a continue this series. Backlist author. Continue the series. Okay, so, I'm debating between two books for continue this series. So I have the second book in the Space series by Sarah L. Hudson, and that is Space Cowgirl. I recently read the first book in this series, Space Junk. I actually read it for a new to me author that I pulled from the origami prompt. And I have been wanting to read more in this series. It's super fun. So I'm going to pick that. And this one is Space Cowgirl, Houston All Systems Go. This is set around people who work at NASA in Houston. So I'm going to write down Space Cowgirl. And you know what? I'm trying to choose between two. But since they're both on Kindle Unlimited and I read a little bit quicker on the Kindle, I'm going to just say both of them. So let me scroll up. So the other series I want to continue is the Finch Family. So this will be book 2, and this is Gold Rush by Jena Bunting. And I'm very, very excited for this. I recently read the first book in this series, loved it, gave it 5 stars. This is a contemporary rec that I picked up because of Shelby, so I definitely want to read more from Jena Bunting. And I think this is her second series, and a novella just came out, and it's either, I think it's novella 2.5, so I think book 3 is supposed to come out soon. It's either book 3 or book 4, so I definitely want to get caught up before that book comes out. So I definitely want to pick up Gold Rush as well. Okay. So then an author I want to continue the backlist for. Now, I don't have too many of my normal backlist authors on Kindle Unlimited. So, okay, I'm going to throw a couple options out. So I definitely want to read In the Arms of the Android, or of an Android, and this is the first book in Tracy Lauren's Android series. She has a series called The Perished Woods, of which 2 books are out. At some point, a 3rd book is supposed to come out. I loved both of those books. Those were fantasy romance, and I have been needing to read a robot android book that I've been wanting to pick up to finish my Heaving Bosoms reading embrace for this year. And I knew I wanted to pick up like an android or cyborg book, and this is the one I think I'm gonna go with. And I definitely want to read Tracy Lauren's sci-fi because I love her fantasy. So I'm gonna pick her. And then I think the other one I'm also wanting to pick up, so I'm gonna put Tracy Lauren down so I can get them all in my to-do list because I love checking them off. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were sitting on my feet here. So then I want to pick up another book by Alessa Thorne. I have not read her Mercenaries and Magic series yet. I also have not read her Wrath of the Fae series yet, but I have 2 books left in her Gods of the Underworld series, which I need to read because then I can go to her, I don't know, tangentially spaced series. It's all part of her gods universe, but there's the gods of the underworld, which is all based on like Greek mythos, most of them around Hades and his people. And then she released a trilogy that was Gods of the Duat, which are Egyptian gods. I definitely have been wanting to read those since she was even talking about writing them. So it has been a while. All of those books are out. She also has the spin-off series that she's been working on for Wrath of the Fae, which is Ironwood. So I need to catch up. I was caught up at one point early on, and now it has spiraled out of control on my backlist. So I definitely want to pick up another book by Alessa Thorne this month. I just don't know which one. If I'm looking for more kind of dark romance, I might pick up Darkest Night. If I want to feel more fantasy, I would go with either Wrath of the Fae or Continuing Gods of the Underworld. But we will see. No matter what, I will try my best to read at least one Alessa Thorne book this month. If not, at least finish The Court of the Underworld. I think it's The Court of the Underworld. Maybe it's The Gods of the Underworld? Let me look. The Court of the Underworld. So we will see. But I'm going to stop there because otherwise I could just go on and on and on. And I know a lot of people do like what do I have checked out on Kindle Unlimited? And I have a specific wish list on Amazon that if I see a book I'm interested in is available through KU, I add it to that and I keep it private. And I just, on a lot of them, I just put the first book in a series or the next book I have to read in the series on that list. So it's like constantly changing as I read stuff. But anyway, those are the surprisingly large amount of books I plan on reading this month. And at the very least, I hope to get through all of these if I don't get to do too much of mood reading. But at the very, very least, I want to at least read my book club books. But we will see what ends up happening. I could also go on a new releases binge because I feel like there's quite a few books that are coming out in September. But we will see what happens. Definitely follow me on Instagram if you want to see what I'm reading, although I have been very bad at updating what I'm currently reading on Instagram as of late. But I'm hoping kind of once I can get into my new routine, I can start having better reading time and going from there. But anyway, I will stop rambling at you. Please let me know if you read any books that you loved or did not love in August so I can either get them on my radar or take them off of my radar. Or if you have any fun plans for September as well, or any new releases that you're looking for in September. Even though I have added quite a few books to my September anticipated releases list, I feel like I'm missing quite a few, but we will see what I end up finding after it's out. But thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you all very, very soon.